as always, go from the front to the back. So we're gonna start above at the very top, so the highest point above the windscreen, move our way forward so the water can drip forward, and then we're gonna work our way back. Today we're at McClellan Jet Services in Sacramento. Just got to the FBO. Gonna check in here and then figure out which plane this hangar is. All right, so just got clearance from the FBO. It's a busy morning, so there's 4 aircraft on the ramp here. One's taken off. I think it's gonna be this Challenger right up here. It looks like we have a CJ3 Hotel, what is that, Echo? And then you've got a Flex Jet. Looks like possibly a Challenger, and then not sure what the other 2 are, but maybe we'll get a closer look when we see. Yeah, we're pulling up. So this is Hangar 1. This is McClellan Jet Services. They've got a ton of hangars here. It actually used to be an older military base. We're not allowed to drive inside of the hangar. We got in trouble for that before. So what we're gonna do is park and unload the equipment. Today we've got a little bit of a smaller ladder. We're working on larger jets. We'll bring a larger ladder, but it is a lot of work to be moving stuff around. The smaller we can go, the better. So I've just got this ladder, and I've also got a step stool that I've got in the back here. So we're gonna have to make 3 trips here. The ladder, step stool, and then we'll get the chemicals. Little creeper, Harbor Freight creeper, and pump spray. All right, so today we've got this Vision Jet here. This is a G2 Plus, it looks like. This is a local plane, the smallest jets, but it's one of the coolest jets because as you can see, it's not that large. A good capacity inside, and I don't know if this guy is unlocked here. Let's see. I gotta get the key, but yeah, it's got a great color, and the engine's right at the top there, so it keeps it pretty clean. It's a single engine jet, so it's definitely interesting. And fun fact, these ones actually have, I believe these have a parachute, so you know, if anything ever goes wrong, you pull that chute and you'll land safely. But on this one here, it's not too bad. You know, there are some bugs and things like that on the nose, and then on the windshield here. The leading edges are what's usually gonna get the dirtiest. As you can see, you've got some bugs and debris. Look at kind of all the flaps, the landing gear, just the general paint condition. And what I'm gonna do is take a ton of before photos and then make sure I can send them to the client. When we're cleaning this today, we're gonna be sure to keep an eye on the static port and the antennas. It's not too big of a concern, but we wanna make sure not to hit any of that. Let me take some photos and then we'll get started. This is how we're recording on the All right, so we're getting started today. We're doing a rinseless wash. It's gonna be the same as any other rinseless wash. This is a smaller plane, so it's gonna be a little bit more manageable. We've got the small ladders here. Normally we would keep the ladders on the ground, but if we're working inside of the hangar, it's one of the benefits is we can leave the ladders up because there's not gonna be, you know, any wind going on in here to blow it over. What we have here is just a bunch of bugs. We're gonna start, as always, go from the front to the back, but we're gonna start above at the very top, so the highest point above the windscreen, move our way forward so the water can drip forward, and then we're gonna work our way back. On this one here, I always like to map out the job before doing it, and we're gonna do is start spraying from the top, work our way forward, then work our way back, and then we're gonna hit the wings, we're gonna hit the stabilizers in the rear, and then we'll hit the belly in the landing gear. So check-in's complete, inspection's complete, photos are complete, and now we can start the job. It usually takes a little while, you know, from when you check in with the FBO until when you actually do the job. So it's just taking all this into account. And also, you know, aircraft detailers, you have to take into travel. So sometimes we would travel a couple hours for a job, check in with the FBO, wait for an escort, get on the ramp, do the inspection, text the client, you know, take your photos. It could take a little while before we actually do the job. Luckily, today we're in our hometown. We got a local plane, you know, no escort needed at the FBO, and the client's pretty relaxed, so don't need a million photos, but people always like to see it before and after. We try to take at least, you know, 10 to 20 pictures before and 10 to 20 pictures after. And it's always good for liability. I've got a hard drive at home filled with pictures of planes, you know, in case anything ever comes up, you know, we've always got before and after pictures. We're gonna start with our rinseless wash in an IK pump sprayer, and in the separate bucket, I usually prep the buckets the morning of or the night before. We've got our clean towels in a bucket with a little bit of water and about that much rinseless wash. not too much. We're gonna be as non-invasive as possible. A bucket filled with brand new towels. So the workflow on this is what we always do, is we're gonna spray with rinseless wash. This is distilled water in rinseless wash. We're gonna spray, let it soak, and it'll let the polymers and do the job that it's supposed to, and it's gonna pull up some of the bugs, the dirt, the debris. And then we're gonna go in with a wet towel to wipe it, and then we're gonna finish that up with a dry towel. I keep the ladder a good amount of distance away from the plane. It's nice to get close, but if you ever fall or whatever it is, what we're trying to avoid is bumping the plane and damaging. So just something to take into consideration. And if we were working outside or in the summer here in Sacramento, we would do a lot smaller sections, probably like a 4x4 or a 2x2 section. Since we're inside and since today is fairly cold, if we wanted to, we could spray down the whole plane and let it sit, because we are gonna come in and wipe it. None of this is gonna dry on the plane, so it's not really a concern for today. I haven't ever washed a plane in freezing temperature. I would assume the workflow would be a little bit different working with today. Getting my clean dry towel and getting my clean wash towel. Same thing, towel's got 8 sides. When you're washing, we're gonna use all 8 sides. We're starting at the top here, and I am just going in straight lines, try to pick it up. And then what I'm gonna do when I do the windscreen, I'm gonna flip it over so I have a brand new side. And then we're going to wipe with the direction of the wind. By keeping it wet and pretty lubricated on here, we're gonna avoid any scratches. So that's the reason that we're using a wet towel. We're pulling up all bugs, the dirt, the debris, whatever it is that's stuck to the windscreen. And so once the towel's been used to wipe, we're gonna go in with a dry towel. And this is the most sensitive part, so I'm gonna start cleaning it first. I'm gonna move the ladder a little bit closer rather than trying to reach. And it always needs 2 passes, just to avoid any streaks. So I'm gonna go again. It's looking pretty good. And yeah, it's looking pretty good. We're gonna go from the top, work our way to the nose, and do the exact same thing. All right, so we just finished up with the whole fuselage here. Now we've got we did the front side of the fuselage. So we're gonna do the engine here. Normally engines on jets, they're gonna be mounted on the side. In the Vision Jet, it's a little bit more interesting because it's right on the top here. So we're gonna clean the same way, just rinseless wash. The only thing we have to be careful about on this aircraft and kind of all aircraft in general is gonna be the antennas. So you've got a couple antennas right on the top. As you can see, there's 3. And then we've also got the leading edge, the engine inlet right here. And that tends to catch a lot of bugs and things like that. So we're gonna be sure to spray that. Be sure to be careful about the antennas, any overspray, and just kind of wipe it the same exact way. So if there's any grease or anything like that, we'll tackle that after the rinseless wash. That's probably gonna be towards the rear, but right now we're just gonna focus on spraying down this engine and making sure it's clean. Since we have access issues, we can't really walk on the wings here. Do half of the engine on this side, and then we're gonna do the other half on the other side versus, trying to get to the top of the ladder, top of the plane, and reaching over. At the end of the day, it's gonna take us a little bit longer. It's gonna be more work, but it's just gonna ensure that we're cleaning each surface properly and also not overextending ourselves where we don't need to be. So you can see some of the vinyl is coming off here, so we're being careful. Just not to wipe too hard around this area because we don't want to peel any of that off. And see, instead of reaching this way, I'm just gonna move the ladder to the back so we can ensure to get that. But before we do that, I'm gonna put the towel exactly where I finished wiping, and I'm gonna dry this front section here. We don't have any of this stuff drying on the plane. Since we just sprayed down the top of the engines, we're getting a little bit of overspray, as you can see, kind of around here. So what I like to do, we're already on this side versus, going back and forth, gonna clean the other side and then gonna clean this section. I'll just spray down this entire section and clean it as well. And it kind of follows along that, working back to front. So this is a static port. You'll see it on a lot of aircraft. What you wanna do is avoid spraying anything in these holes, especially if you're waxing. Sometimes people wax an aircraft and get wax in here. That's gonna cause, some issues. So what I'm gonna do, this is just, like I said, mostly water and a tiny bit of rinseless wash. It's not too much of a concern. We're not gonna spray it directly in the hole. Just be mindful this area whenever you're working. Sometimes people will tape them off, when they're doing polishing and things like that. For the wash today, that's unnecessary, so we're not gonna do that. But I'm just gonna be mindful not to spray into that hole directly. On these flaps here, you always want to be careful. You're not really applying any pressure because these things do move. Some of the flaps you can move, you can push, but I always err on the side of caution. All planes are going to be a little bit different, so especially if it says no push here, I'm going to make sure to hold it and be very light with pressure. But we're not trying to scrub too hard here, just trying to make sure to wipe everything off without doing any damage. So the wing is just like the rest of the plane. On this one, you've got boots. Sometimes you'd have leading edges. On some Cirrus, you would have like an SR22, you would have a TKS system. On those, it's just different systems for de-ice. These ones, we're not gonna do a full seal today, so we're just gonna do the same rinseless wash. It's gonna take a little bit more scrubbing just to get these off. So which is why we're gonna pre-spray the boots and then go in with our same wet towel, dry towel situation. On the wings here, I like to just wipe them with the direction of the wind. Same thing with everything. What we're trying to do is, one, avoid scratching, and then two, if we ever do get some scratches, you don't want them against the side. That's not going to happen today, but I just like to wipe with the direction of the wind. We'll do this whole section and then we can kind of connect here. On this, we're going to have to hit it from both sides of the wing just because it's a larger wing. If you're working on a jet, you might like to use a pole or something like that and get on a ladder. But this is going to be really quick because waist height, and then we're going to be able to wipe the whole thing down and get it done quickly. Let's pre-spray the boots, pre-spray the wings. And then also, whether you're using a sprayer, sometimes people will use the kegs with a hose. Always be careful just not to hit the aircraft. I mean, it's pretty basic, but try not to touch anything with the lines, so just be cautious about where you're keeping the lines. We do this with polishers, the cords and all that, because the thing is, even though it's a small touch like this, if it's scraping around on the paint, we're talking about the clear coat, while it's touching the clear coat, you can create scratches in the clear coat or damage. These are just small things, but it's important to note and just take into consideration whenever you have cords, lines, or just anything around the aircraft. I'm gonna work from this side. And then this plane is clean, but if it were dirtier, I would be flipping this towel a little bit more to the clean side. And then once that's wiped, you get a new side of the towel, do the same thing. Always being careful with the antennas here. So we're drawing right now, and even though we're drawing with our drawing towel, it's still gonna be a little damp. So what I'll do is just follow up with a second drying towel to clear all these last streaks here. All right, so now we just finished up the whole fuselage, the stabilizers, the engine, and the wings. Now we're gonna do the bottom. On the bottom here, it's not too bad, and we have a bunch of clearance, which is nice, because we've worked on larger jets that have smaller clearance underneath. What we're gonna have is our creeper, just so we can go on our back and roll around underneath. And then we're just gonna do the same thing, so rinseless wash on the landing gear, on the belly. Be cautious of any antennas and things like that. Sometimes planes will have antennas sticking out, so be careful not to nick any of those. And yeah, we'll follow up with degreaser if it's necessary, if it's still dirty on the bottom. This one's gonna be clean, so it's most likely just gonna be rinseless wash. And yeah, we'll get this cleaned up and finished pretty quickly here. And for the underside, I prefer using a handheld spray bottle because the large one is hard to maneuver, especially if you're on the creeper. So I'm just pre-spraying. And we just did the rinseless wash. There is a little bit of grease buildup underneath that I could still see. So what we're gonna use for the grease is a little degreaser. I like to use my older towels for degreaser. The surface is clean, these towels are clean, but they're gonna be tossed afterwards. So a little bit of degreaser right here on the towel. We're just going in the small sections and kind of spreading out the degreaser. You could spray it, but you'll get overspray everywhere. So I like to go on the towel, apply it, put it over the sections that need degreasing, and then from there, and wipe everything down. All right, just finished up our rinseless wash on this Cirrus SR22. Thank you, Blaze Grubs. Thanks, Blaze, for letting us wash your plane today. It turned out really nicely. The plane was in great condition. There's just some bugs on the nose, the windscreen, the engine inlets, and then a little bit of grease buildup on the bottom. Nothing too bad. He keeps great care of this plane, so it makes it easier for us, as well as it just keeps it looking great overall. When you have a plane this color, it's nice to keep it clean because it looks so much better. So yeah, we wrapped up. Once again, we're starting from the top, working our way forward, then forward, working our way back. Then we'll do the stabilizers, the engines, the wings, and then finishing up with the belly and the landing gear. We got this done in just under an hour, and now it's ready for its next flight, looking nice and clean. So see you on the next one.